What do Jeopardy host Alex Trebek, Canadian Geographic Magazine, and a secret World War II chemical weapons lab have in common? In this episode of My Canada, we're going to dive into the extraordinary history of a building at 50 Sussex Drive in our nation's capital of Ottawa, Canada. When you travel around the world to go to places nobody's been before, there's nothing quite as sweet as coming home. Now I'm on a journey to share the stories that define my country. I'm Jill Heinerth, and this is My Canada. This is one of the most historically significant places in all of Canada, where the Rideau Falls meets the Ottawa River. This beautiful building behind me at 50 Sussex Drive is actually two buildings in one. The first part, the modern part, was built in 2000 by the National Capital Commission to house the Canada and the World Pavilion. The older part of the building lies beneath the pavement here. But even before that, this was a pulp and paper mill. This is the traditional territory of the Algonquin, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, St. Lawrence Iroquois, and Huron-Wendat people. By 11,000 years ago, the Rideau region would have been clearing of ice, and these nomadic hunter-gatherers were following large game like caribou along the waterways. The conditions here would have been subarctic. But between 10,000 and 2,800 years ago, the climate started to warm and people traveled along these waterways in dugout canoes. And there's a lot of evidence of early trade between different groups. Guided by Algonquin traders, Etienne Brulé is widely regarded as the first European to travel upriver, passing by the falls in 1610 on his way to the Great Lakes. In 1613, Samuel de Champlain wrote in his journal about his encounters with the Algonquin people of the region known as the Kichisibi. He saw two beautiful 9-meter-high waterfalls and named them Le Rideau, the French word for curtains. Many missionaries, explorers, and traders followed, with their first maps designating the river as Ottawa, derived from the Algonquin word Ottawa, meaning a place to trade. On New Year's Eve 1857, Queen Victoria designated the land along the Ottawa and Rideau rivers to become the new permanent capital. The falls, on the border of French-populated Lower Canada and English Upper Canada, were the industrial centerpiece of the new city. As the 20th century dawned, the Mackay and McKinnon mills were among the largest in all of North America, and many more mills, breweries, and factories lined the banks. In the late 1930s, with the Second World War looming over Europe, the old mill buildings at Rideau Falls were converted by the National Research Council and designated as the John Street Labs, which housed a classified top-secret government project developing and testing chemical weapons. From the outside, the site appeared to be one of the many nondescript factories in the area. But on the inside, some of the top Allied researchers in the world were preparing to wage chemical and biological warfare. As a slight misdirection to the curious, the buildings also housed the first National Film Board of Canada, the National Film Commission, and they proudly hung a Motion Picture Commission sign at a prominent entrance. In addition to the study, testing, and manufacturing of biochemical weapons and the associated gear to counteract them, like gas masks and advanced filtration systems, the John Street Labs also conducted testing on volunteer soldiers. Many of these human subjects suffered great injury in the form of respiratory illnesses and serious, painful blistering of the skin. In 2004, the Ministers of National Defence and Veterans Affairs instituted a payment program to compensate the veterans who were injured during the chemical warfare testing. Following the war, in 1947, the program at Rideau Falls ended. Most of the lab's buildings were demolished, and this area near the falls was turned into Rideau Falls Park. Some of the infrastructure, including 50 Sussex, survived. In 2000, the National Capital Commission built a modern structure above the John Street Labs Foundation to house the Canada and the World Pavilion. It was an attraction where visitors could learn about Canada's contributions to international diplomacy, peacekeeping, science, and technology. With declining attendance and financial constraints, it was closed 5 years later. The building sat mostly unused and empty until 2017, when it was refurbished and transformed to be the new home of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society and Canadian Geographic Magazine.
I'm here for this very special dedication with the Prime Minister of Canada.
Designated as Canada's Centre for Geography and Exploration, 50 Sussex is enjoying a newfound life as an education outreach and events centre. As the first RCGS Explorer in residence, I've been fortunate to share this space with dignitaries, scientists, politicians, explorers, and prime ministers. I've given presentations about my expeditions and even hosted the Canadian Geographic Challenge finals in the new Alex Trebek Theatre, named in honor of the beloved TV host, who is the honorary president of the Society. My Canada has beautiful waterfalls, an historic river, and a former secret chemical warfare plant. And it's now the home of an organization that strives to make Canada better known to Canadians and the world. I'm Jill Heinerth, inviting you to make my Canada your Canada too.